Welcome back to the O Brother Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith.
Good to see you tonight, Dan.
And that's where we'll begin, Michael and I. Mike, we're
Together
this was
again.
this is definitely an episode that almost wasn't. And I had
That
to really strong arm you into doing this one, but
Yep.
the people spoke. Well, at least three people spoke. I put out a poll on our Instagram at OHB podcast, at OHB as in brother podcast, and said, should we review this? It was 100% response for
And I
yes, we
didn't
should review
vote,
this. Well, I told you
or
yours wouldn't count anyways
I
if you
know it
did,
wouldn't have been 100% if I voted.
but what happened was, so I said, Wicked just came out streaming on Peacock. So I said, why don't we take a look at it since it's, kind of free to get access to. Didn't really have any intention on doing it. We kind of, blew past that. We did a first look on it quite a while ago, before it came out November 22nd, 2024, last year.
And some of the things I was critical then are gonna
Mhm.
resurface.
You're critical now. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We decided to do it. I was like, we were both almost an hour into it.
Yeah.
And I'm driving home and I call you and I say, oh, yeah, we're talking about Wicked. And you tip your hand and basically
Well,
tell me,
actually, you said something
yeah,
negative first.
I did not say anything negative.
You did. You
I
said something
didn't.
about Bo and Yang.
No, 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 no. That is absolutely not true. What happened was, for the record, to get it on the record, what happened
Okay.
was I said, I didn't finish. I was 40 minutes in, but I was tired. Like I made some comment that you admittedly interpreted as negative, like it's
Right.
so long. I don't want to, I'm not into it. You interpreted from that, right? You inferred from that I didn't probably like it. So it opened the door to you to go, yeah, crazy about it, whatever. So then I
And I
jumped
was
all over you.
literally watching it when you called. I was an hour
Oh,
in,
I didn't know that.
and honestly, if you lop that hour off, it gets better, but it doesn't make it good.
Mm.
And I have, like, many reasons why to back it up.
Yeah, that's
And
good
then they're
because
very consistent with
yeah, this will be
s
one where you're out on an island with this, other than maybe your boys over at the record show. I'm sure they'll slide into the
no, they'll
comments and
probably like
say
it,
what a
and
wonderful reviewer Mike is, and he's got it right once again,
I don't know,
1,000%
you
right.
have something against them? Like,
I never get any. I'm completely ignored in the comments, guys. I just want to say, completely
they
ignored.
make
Uh,
generic comments, they're
where's
not
where's
towards
my?
me.
I need validation. Is I guess the
Yeah,
point that I need.
sounds like
No, but
you're a needy person.
so got all over you because I said, why did you say anything? Like we've talked about this before. Like that's what makes the conversations interesting is we go in cold, not knowing what the other's thoughts are on about it,
But
right?
I felt you tipped it,
I didn't,
and
but
so
but that
I went down there.
which is fine. It's besides the point. But so then the next day I ended up finishing the film
Right.
and started kind of diving into it a little bit. And I said to you, I feel strongly that we should review this for no other reason. If for no other reason, then we need to have the old brother review in the archives of this film. Plus, we did a review on it, and I did say to you, how could we let a film that was, I mean, this successful come and go without us at least commenting on it one way or the other, right? So here we are. Now, it's funny, Mike, because leading up to this episode, I went back, as you probably do sometimes, and I watched the first look,
I
which
didn't.
was the trailer review that we did
Yeah.
on the movie. And of course, this is Wicked, we should say, for those that don't know, because nobody really knew until they sort of hit us with it at the end that it was Wicked Part One.
Right, and I think you know this probably from your research that, part 2 is already filmed. They filmed
Yeah.
I think what they did is they filmed 1 movie, and they realized it was really long, and they
Mhm.
decided to cut because when it was originally announced, it was not announced as a part 1, and the
It wasn't.
sequel's called Wicked for You,
No, it's
or
Wicked
Wicked for Good, I'm
for
sorry.
good. Yeah, for you.
So, I think when that comes out, between the 2, we'll have maybe a pretty decent 2-hour film, but as this one standalone 2.5 hours is an hour, at least an hour too long.
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, there's certainly things I would trim out, and we'll get into it. We'll talk about the details and all that. But let me get back to saying I went to watch the
First
first
look.
the trailer review that we did. Yeah, and I just had to laugh. I mean, we knew jack about this film. We didn't know anything about the musical to the point where, and I apologize for anybody who watched that episode of the Oh Brother podcast and had to hear me pronounce Cynthia Erivo's character as the witch. Instead of Alphaba, Mike, at that time, I said Alfalba, like alfalfa. Like I just, it was
But
so
again, that
idiotic.
name came out of nowhere at us because
It did,
that
yeah.
wasn't in The
Well,
Wizard of
no,
Oz.
not out of no. Again, this is not
It's a
adapted straight from. No, it is
no,
not.
it's a prequel. It's
No, it
considered a
isn't.
prequel
It's
to
not.
The Wizard of
It's
Oz.
not. This is really born
You
from the
sent
broad.
me a link that
I
said
didn't. It's
how
no, that's
this
not.
mirrors the Broadway
No.
play, plus acts as a prequel to The Wizard of
Very
Oz.
loosely, right? Because this is set both before and I assume part 2 after Dorothy arrives
I don't
in
think they'll go
Oz.
there.
They
I don't
are
think they'll
going
go
there.
there.
There's already footage of it. They are going there.
Of them after? Wow,
Yes.
then I'm
Yeah, yeah.
already, like, negative towards part 2, more so,
Wow, that's
because I
great.
can see them filling in more of the
I don't mean
backstory.
after, I just mean after Dorothy arrives in Oz is what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's set 10 years after Dorothy was in Oz. That's
And,
not what I'm saying.
you know, if you're doing a film about characters that we already know, and
But that's yeah,
we have a
right.
recent review that we did
Uh-huh.
on Wonka,
Yeah.
okay? Perfect example.
It's not though.
You
It's
have to
different.
believe Timothy Chalamet is Gene Wilder.
That's not what this is. That's not what this is. Let me give you some of the background here, okay?
Okay.
And you can look this up on IMDb or Wikipedia or whatever. So, the Broadway musical, which I have not seen, I now wanna
Right,
see
and
based on this.
the killer is I wanted to see it. I could have seen it in previews in San Francisco before it went to Broadway. I had a ticket. I
Yeah.
was working at the Old Globe at the time.
Well, it hits 2003, it hits Broadway, okay?
Yeah, and it
Music and
just
lyric
finished its run.
Yeah, music and lyrics by Steven Schwartz. It was adapted from the, Gregory Maguire novel from 1995, okay? Which was also adapted from the Frank Baum novel
Right,
of 1900, which of course the 1939 film came from that you're talking about.
right.
So there's a lot of layers. It isn't like this is just based on The Wizard of Oz or like it's a
No,
reboot
but
of that
we
film or
see
anything.
Glinda and the Wicked Witch of the West
Sure. Absolutely.
as adults. So there too, we have to believe that Ariana Grande is Glinda.
No, this is a different. I see it differently in this case.
I
That
don't.
I mean, that's fine, but that's a problem that you're creating for yourself unnecessarily. If you would just suspend that part of it, because that isn't
Well,
what it's
not really,
supposed to
because
be. That isn't what
when
it's supposed to be.
when the film finally gets to Oz is when it starts being decent. Now,
Oh, I totally
I'm not gonna
disagree with
say
that.
anything negative about the singers, although there was an issue because the 2 leads sang live, which normally you don't do. When you like, think of West Side Story, a film we both
Mhm.
liked, which was basically a remake, not a sequel or a prequel
The
or anything.
yeah, the recent one, right.
But normally they sing it in the studio and, they dub it on screen,
Right, right.
and but they didn't do that with this, although they did with the background players, and it is noticeable. You can tell there's a difference in the sound. I don't know if you watch this with your sound system on, but I did,
Yeah.
and I could kinda
I
tell it
couldn't
was the
tell.
difference
Yeah.
between them
No, I
and
couldn't tell.
the backup vocals,
couldn't tell,
which
but
isn't that's like the slimmest of problems I have
and
with
it's
it.
not a problem, but anyways, it's very nitpicky, but so let me give some of the other, details here. Directed by John Chu, John M. Chu, if you will, did Crazy Rich Asians and, some he's done
Mhm.
a lot of, like he's another one of those, he's got a long resume with, like, a lot of music videos and things of that nature, but man, when you look at his upcoming like, now this guy's involved in everything. There's, like, a laundry list of upcoming things on his IMDb page. I already mentioned Cynthia Erivo stars as the witch, Alphaba. Ariana Grande, who you mentioned, is Glinda or Galinda. We can talk about that. Jeff Goldblum, of course, is the Wiz, the wizard, right? Michelle Yeoh, and again, apologies. I think forever I've been saying Michelle Yao. I don't know why, but Michelle Yeoh to pronounce her name correctly. Jonathan Bailey, who plays a bit of a love interest almost to both of them,
A
and folks would know
superfluous
him.
character. Many
Um,
one of
that
many.
that might be a
Michelle, Bowen Yang, the sister, none of them need to be in this film. They do nothing to forward the story. They do nothing to help this story. Like, why all of a sudden is there a Prince Charming in this story? It makes no sense. The
are you arguing with me? I haven't said anything. Like, just calm
Well,
down.
you're reading the cast, and I'm just saying
Right,
irrelevant,
but
irrelevant,
okay,
don't
can
even
I
mention
finish?
them.
Can I finish? It's not irrelevant. He's a star of the film, and he's a major star, right? So the guy, like,
There's 2
funny
stars in the
enough,
film,
yeah, okay,
and the
fair.
rest are supporting cast
Okay,
that
great,
many
excellent,
didn't need to be
wonderful.
there.
Thanks for pointing that out. We just did a review on the trailer for Jurassic World Rebirth because I'm like, I recognize this guy, and he's in that. He plays like the
Oh,
doctor something in that. He's also from Bridgerton, is where a lot of people might know him from. Super popular show.
yeah.
And then I wanted to mention Marissa Bodie, who plays Alphaba's sister in the film.
Mhm.
That to me is kind of the main. You mentioned Bowen Yang. I mean, okay, that's one issue I had with the film,
Right.
and honestly, in
Well, you had
large
2 that
part,
you brought up to me. That was
yeah, and
1.
in large part though, because every time I would see him, I was just taken out of the fantasy of it because it's like, oh, it's Bowen Yang from Saturday Night Live. Like, I don't,
That, and
you
also
know,
his character plays like, a stereotypical gay guy that really, like, what's he doing in this movie? I have no idea why that character exists
he's
other
like,
than
he's a
wokeness.
best, he's a best friend of,
She has many, a lot of
right.
best friends,
Okay.
but he has, like, 2 lines. It's a small part,
So
but
what? Like,
enough
what is
to
your
annoy
hang
me
up on that?
because
Relax.
it's just
It's a little
if I was
ridiculous.
him, I would have felt condescended to. "Hey, we need a gay guy. Come on in and play the gay guy."
This is a, wow. This is a very,
This is what this film did to me.
this, you're showing your age here with this kind of, with the
No.
commentary. Yes, you
I
are.
grew up on Wizard of Oz, so I mean, it used to be once a
Okay, this
year that we
isn't
got
The
to see
Wizard of
it.
Oz.
It's
Can
a
you stop with
prequel,
that? No, it isn't
and
a prequel.
I'll send you the
It's
link
not.
you sent me that
And
says it is,
okay, but
and
I'm
of
saying it's
course it
not.
is. It's the
Of
backstory,
course. Yeah, there's elements. I'm just saying that's not, it wasn't just a straight prequel based on the Wizard of Oz film in 1939. That's all I'm saying. I already gave you the history of the musical and all the other layers that are in between.
and you
You've
also
just got
sent
this
me a
hang up
link that
that
said
if it
this is a
isn't
prequel.
exactly if it isn't exactly the Wizard of Oz, it's a piece of crap. Like, that's kind of where you're
I'm
at.
not saying that, but if you're gonna portray these
Listen,
characters at an earlier time in their life, I have to believe that they become the characters that I know.
okay, okay, but you know what your problem is with that? You're, and a lot of people
And I'll give
view
you an example of it.
view it this way, but what you're getting hung up on is the look. You're purely saying, I don't think this character looks like the character I grew up on.
No.
Therefore, it's no,
Nope.
yes, it is.
No, no, no.
Yes, it is, because Cynthia Erivo absolutely embodies the characteristics, the attitude. Now we don't
Yes,
know we don't know, what is it, Elmira Gulch. We didn't know her as a young girl and
right, and
through her
and you're
adolescence and
absolutely
everything.
right. She has some of the hand movements that come
It's
right
not
out of
just
the
about
the
the
character.
physical stuff, it's not just about that, but
Well, the
go
fact
ahead,
that
you were
she's
trying to make a
green.
point.
Well, I was gonna make the point of Star Wars, right? That comes out in 1977, and then George Lucas goes to make a prequel series. So, in the 3rd part, in Revenge of the Sith, you
Mhm.
have to believe that these characters are the ones we know in A New Hope, yet the technology is 30 plus years better.
Yeah,
So
you
Lucas goes in and tinkers with the 3 originals, adding stuff, and people have a heart attack over it, like, "How dare he, change this or that?" Well, he's trying to be consistent with, the effects of the time and what's now available. The point
I'm
being, this is
sorry,
the
I
same
zoned out.
thing. This is the same thing, like, when they finally get to Oz and they take a speed train to Oz, okay, why have a yellow brick road if there's a speed train?
One's
Makes no
got nothing to do
sense.
with the other.
It
Got
does.
got nothing to
It
do with it.
does. You're
Like,
just
the stuff
you're
you're
totally
picking nits.
no, you're totally
You're
throwing
picking
away that
nits.
this is a prequel to Wizard
No,
of Oz,
fine.
which it
No,
is.
I'll listen, for the sake of just you calming down, I'll concede and say, "Okay, it's a prequel." Okay, fine. I'm
And
okay with
then
that, but what you can't get over is, again, that perfect example, right? I'll use your own, methodology and turn it around on you.
okay.
We both like Solo: A Star Wars Story,
Yeah,
okay? Right. There's no resemblance whatsoever. Most people hated it. There's no resemblance to Han Solo whatsoever. So don't even
but I
give me that.
believe
That's as
him.
close. Exactly
I
right. You
believe
believe
him.
it because the way he portrayed the character had
Yes.
nothing to do with his looks, nothing to do with
And I'll give
anything.
you a better example, Joaquin Phoenix and Walk the
Wait,
Line.
you're glossing over the fact that I just proved you wrong in that point.
No,
You're hung up on the image and what you know from the 1939 film. That's just clear
and I
from what you're
should be.
saying.
I should
You
be
shouldn't be.
because
You
this is a
can be.
prequel.
You're allowed to. It's not billed as a prequel. Forget what that article says. Okay. If you did
I'll
you
have to
watch
forget
all of
many
did you
articles.
watch all of the making ofs? Did you watch all
No,
of the
because
extra
I
okay,
didn't have
then you
access
didn't
to it.
hear from the author, from the people involved with the musical, or the director of the film himself, John Chu.
I hope people who have seen the musical drop a comment more than ever
They're gonna love it.
because
They're gonna love it.
no, I have a feeling.
Nope.
By the way, this did not
Wrong.
hold up at number 1 for
First of
2
all
weeks.
First of all, 2 of the main Broadway players are in The Thing, spoiler alert. Did you not
Yeah,
pick up on that?
yeah, but
Adina
what does that have to
Menzel
do with
and
anything?
Kristen Chenoweth. I'm just saying, trust me, fans of the musical
No,
absolutely not everybody, but I guarantee you the majority love the film.
I
Guarantee it.
doubt it. I
I
doubt it.
don't. I
Ha
don't.
Being a fan of musicals myself and having been in a
Not of
musical,
this one, that's for sure.
no, I'm not.
Yeah.
Like, I'll never watch
You
this
you
again.
act as though I made the film, for Christ's sake. Like, relax.
Okay, let's get to a couple of other points. One which you brought up to me
Sure.
when you said you weren't negative. How
Uh-huh.
about Peter
Oh, I didn't
Dinklage?
say it wasn't negative. I said I had I said there were a few things that
Okay,
I would trim
how
out of
about
it.
the hypocrisy of Peter Dinklage?
I have the note right here if you give me 2 seconds, okay?
Okay, we'll get to it.
So we talked about this, at some point, I think on another episode with Snow White. We were talking about Snow White
Yeah,
because he came out and was very vocal about the use of CGI to cast the 7 dwarfs, right? Rather
right,
than, provide employment opportunities for little people, right?
right.
But apparently he has no problem, playing a goat character and voicing a goat character. I found that a little bit hypocritical. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well,
I don't know.
it's not about the goat. Well, first of all, the whole animal abuse angle was stupid. Like,
Yeah,
what does that have to do
I
with
didn't quite
anything?
get that. I didn't quite get that.
Like,
I didn't quite get
think
that.
about it. That could be exercised out or excised out, and nobody would miss it.
And I also
But no,
yeah,
wait,
go ahead.
wait. Let me finish this Peter
Go
Dinklage
ahead.
point,
Go ahead.
because it's
Jeez,
not about him
jeez
playing a goat.
Louise.
It's about the fact that the Munchkins, who were historically played by little people,
Correct. Oh, absolutely. Great point.
the
That's right.
Munchkins are
I
taller than
didn't
me.
I didn't get that. I thought at first when they were first introduced in the first, 10 minutes, I
Yeah.
thought, "Oh, they're gonna do some, visual illusion." But quickly you could I'm like, "Oh, they're not." So what gives? Well,
And
it what it is I look, I don't know what the rationale was behind that decision, but it 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 was weird. I guess the way they explained it wasn't about like size or their stature. It was more about it was a culture and a way of life, and they were like stewards of the land and all of that. It's like, okay, that's fine. But now that's where I can get with you and say, hey, come on,
right.
taking away more jobs from little people, like just cast the thing and come on.
And
And
that's
not to
why
mention that's a lot of work.
a lot of work.
A
And
lot of
Wizard
work.
of Oz, I think of the little people that
All
probably
right, we're
employed
coming back
more.
together, folks. Hang on. The
Yeah.
relationship is still intact.
No, that probably employed more little people than any production in history,
At least
and
at
they
that
went
time.
on like actors today. We've gone to like, just last week, CinemaCon was in Vegas,
Yeah.
and actors go to these events, which, we attended Spooky Empire in Orlando. Those characters, those actors that portrayed the Munchkins had a career of going to those, they made a living going to those
Yeah.
events.
Yeah.
So Peter Dinklage is being pretty much a hypocrite by ragging on Snow
Yeah.
White and then
Yeah.
not calling attention to the fact that they could have employed a lot of
I
little people.
That's a point I tend to agree with you on. So I can't argue that point at all. But so I guess what worked for me is I didn't go into it with this hang up from the 1939 film. And frankly, I grew up on that film, as many people did. Watch every year at Thanksgiving. Like that was just a given you were going to watch.
Yeah.
And Margaret Hamilton as Elmira Gulch scared the hell out of me as a kid. In fact, I gotta take a minute just to let me share the screen for a second, Mike, because
Yeah,
you'll
she
you'll
and
appreciate this.
and I mentioned to you recently how, we were out at Disney Hollywood Studios, and the Great Movie Ride had this fantastic animatronic in it
Well, here it is right
of her.
here.
Oh, is this the Disney
But
animatronic?
it's funny looking at it now. I mean, it's
Right.
still pretty good for 1990, but it wasn't quite as smooth as I recall,
Wait
you
till
know?
you see the monsters in Epic Universe.
Yeah,
Holy
but look at this
mackerel.
still holds up pretty well. They
This
never should
still
have
holds
got
up.
this should still be there. I'm sorry, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway.
I
It's a cute
totally agree
ride.
with you there.
It's cute, but the Great Movie Ride should still be there. Maybe you come up with an updated Sigourney Weaver character or something, but this was worth it. And then that, the movie montage that you go in, you roll into at the end.
Right.
So,
And that they constantly updated it.
and there's Elmira Gulch.
And
Show
you're
you
right. As a kid, she
yeah.
was terrifying. I
Like
was
this
happy
is
when they
all you
dropped
need to know right here.
when they dropped a house on her. There
Yeah.
she
I
is.
mean, terrifying,
Yeah.
terrifying. She died in, like, 1985, I think, but good lord. Let me say, again, I didn't go in with that hang up, so I think from the beginning, for me, that kinda helped. I will say one other thing that was kinda weird throughout the whole film, I couldn't get past them this using this word, shiz. I kept
I
thinking of
Wow, me
every time they
too.
said shiz,
Or
like,
I
it's
won't
the
say
shiz
the
knit.
other word that comes to mind.
Well, okay. Yeah, can we keep it you've
Let's
already
keep it
like, the
clean.
show we're canceled. We're just canceled. But yeah, the shiz, it was like the shiznit, like from,
It was
Snoop
a
Dogg's
weird
album. It was weird, yeah. But I did first of all, look, I'm a fan of Ariana Grande as an artist. I have been for many, many years. She's super talented. I didn't know Cynthia Erivo at all,
Mhm.
and, before watching the film, somewhat like you, but not to the same degree, I was forming this judgment about the film based on what I was seeing in the media and on the press, the press junket that they were doing, because it just seemed, I don't know, very over the top, and the way that they were promoting the film, and you kind of mentioned a lot of the you had some issues, but
There's a
and then
lot of
the
it in
Oscars.
there.
Let's cut to the 97th Oscars that just passed, and they opened the show, and we were both kind of critical of it and being all this. I went back and watched that again, chills. Like,
Yeah, I
I see it totally differently now, because I see, first of all, Cynthia Erivo is an amazing singer, and she's a great actress, super talented, Broadway, now,
totally
obviously the big screen. Matter of fact, it's surprising you didn't pick this out, Mike. 2 things I wanna say about her here. She was in, which I still haven't watched, I know you're a little pissed at me. She was in Bad Times at the El Royale.
I
She
forgot
played
I'll rewatch it just for that.
she played a character in that, and Mike, she's an EGOT nom.
Not
So
surprised.
she's won everything but the Oscar, and she was
Yeah.
nominated. She was
Now what
nominated.
did she win a Tony for? Not Wicked.
I think it was The Color Purple, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
She did The
I
Color
mean,
Purple, yeah.
fantastic voice, and
Amazing voice, just gave me
at
chills,
the end,
chills.
when the 2 of them are singing, and they're singing live,
Yeah.
it's tremendous. I
It's
liked the last, 45 minutes of the film.
yeah,
I
well,
did like it.
and, if you've seen Idina Menzel, or however John Travolta pronounced her name at the, Emmys or Oscars one year, he just butchered her name, and Kristen Chenoweth, their performances, but Idina Menzel in particular singing "Defying Gravity,"
Right.
it's very powerful. She's got an amazing voice, but Cynthia Erivo just takes it to a whole nother level, to the point where at the end of that song, there's this unbelievable note that she hits, which
Right.
was a variation on the way Idina Menzel did it.
When she's floating out in front of
Yeah,
the
and that like, I won't
oh,
even
it's
tell, but it
unbelievable.
became a thing on, like, TikTok. People, like, it was like a challenge that people were trying to
Oh,
do it, replicate it,
don't
and,
even
but just
try.
I was so blown away, and, like, the soundtrack is excellent. The Wizard and I, Defying Gravity, popular.
Right.
It's very funny. Ariana Grande, I already knew this about her from kind of being a fan of hers, but she's really funny. I thought she played the character. What I liked too that I didn't expect was them to portray Glinda as this kind of entitled brat. She's kind of the spoiled goody two shoes, that gets everything, is used to getting everything she wants.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the film does a lot to tell you backstory about
Elphaba.
Elphaba, but they don't do that with her,
That's a good point. Yeah,
which is
that's true.
another failing I think I had, and I thought some of the musical numbers just dragged. I mean,
Well,
for every great one, there was
yeah,
one that went on a
there
minute
were
too long.
that's where, like, I think, okay, there's probably 1 or 2 they could have
Yeah,
chopped out, but I really like that whole, Mike, the sequence where towards the end of the film, when
yeah,
the Defying Gravity, right before she goes out the window,
yes,
that slow-mo with the cape is one of the greatest scenes I've ever watched. It
and
was
her
so
out
striking.
the same cape
It
with her
just
singing that crazy note.
oh,
I mean,
so
it
good.
is if the film was that good for the
Yeah,
if that last 45 minutes is tacked on to the next film, and they fit well,
yeah.
there's like I said, I think there's probably a really good film in the 2 of them, but
Well,
this is a standalone.
I think the second is gonna pay off for you, because that's where, you're gonna see Alphaba's fall, to
Right, I
pardon the
mean,
pun.
she's been termed the Wicked
She's
Witch already,
right, she's
but
gonna
she
turn
really isn't
literally.
wicked yet.
No. In fact, she's trying everything she can to do good,
Right, and Glinda's trying to help her and
because
wants her to
she's
be happy.
right, because if she does good, she's gonna be rewarded by the wizard.
Right,
And, of course, she finds out, like they do in the 1939 film, this guy's nothing but a shyster,
right.
right? And who better to play that character than Jeff Goldblum? I mean, come on. But and it's weird too, because Jonathan Bailey, well, no, he's in Jurassic World. I mean, Jeff Goldblum's character's been dead since what, the second one in Jurassic Park?
No, he came back.
Oh, he
He
did
came
come
back.
back, you're right.
He's yeah,
That's right, that's right.
he's in, like, the
Um,
most recent one.
you didn't appreciate the set design? There was a
No,
lot
I
of that
did.
were practical sets. It
I
was
did. I
phenomenal.
didn't have
Munchkin
like
Land,
I said, there's a
top
lot
bill.
I concede, the
Yeah,
singing, the sets, the direction, the look. Now, I think they went too far. They showed too much of the Emerald City. I love
mm,
the fact that The Wizard of Oz pulled off the Emerald City without ever showing it. They
mm,
just show her going in to meet the wizard,
yeah.
and I
You
think
know,
they should have been mindful of that.
you mentioned the train thing. I mean, I had no problem with it. Would I have missed it if it wasn't in it? No, but it was just something cool and new that we haven't seen before. Like and again, it was they had a real they built that thing. Like, I
Right.
mean, you got to appreciate that. A couple of things. One, to sort of support something you said earlier with the animals and that whole I didn't quite get that
It
angle
was bizarre.
until well, there is though this whole, part of the storyline, Alphaba's storyline where she's got this deep connection with nature
Mhm.
and I think with animals, and then, of course, her reign over the monkeys, which I kinda like the way they told that origin story.
Right,
That
right.
was very cool.
I agree, and I didn't think it was like animal abuse. It's like, I don't know, they gorillas or chimps? I don't know.
Chimps, I don't
Yeah.
know.
You know,
Yeah.
they're kinda watching the birds and they wanna fly, so I didn't think it was like animal abuse to put wings on them.
Yeah, it was a pretty intense sequence there in the film, but there was ones, like, with the animals, they went too far with for me when it was like a Star Wars cantina band, they
Yeah.
had with all the animals. I did that was too much, but, I also another striking sequence I found was there's this scene where they go to this dance basically called Ozdust, and
Mhm.
there's this really powerful sequence where Cynthia Erivo does this silent, slow dance by herself
Yes.
in front of everybody. Very vulnerable scene, not only for her as the actress, but,
And they're
as the
kinda
character.
snickering at her
Kind of, right.
until Glinda joins in
It's
with
really
her.
well
It's a
done.
great sequence.
I'm a sap, like, I got really kind of emotional with some of that
Well,
stuff, so
that's
I don't
that
know.
that's a
I'm not
great
ashamed to
sequence.
say it, but, um, let's talk about some of the critiques that are out there. So, for IMDb, it's got a Metascore 73. I know you'd say that's very high, I got it. Rotten Tomatoes,
Is way
88%,
up.
88% from the critics, 95% from the audience. Tells you
I
all you
wanna
need
hear
to know.
from people who have seen the Broadway version and what they think.
Mike, well, yeah, drop some comments on the video. Let us know what you think if you've seen the musical for sure. We mentioned Margaret Hamilton earlier. This scared the bejesus out of us as kids. There's a little tip of the hat to her, I think, her character in this, because there's this woman that is kind of like the dean of the Shiz University, and she's there's some sequences she says something like, "Oh, it's okay, no worries, it's just a slight gulch." It had to be a little bit of a
Right.
nod to, and it was weird, they have this weird language too that they use,
Yeah.
right? They say words differently. I can't think of a good example off the top of my head, but I thought that
Well,
was
you
kind of interesting.
mentioned Galinda, that
Well, that's a
comes
bit different,
because
but yeah.
the goat can't pronounce Glinda,
It was funny. I mean, it was funny.
you know?
Unnecessary, but it was funny.
Yeah, like,
But the
take out
chemistry between go
take
ahead.
out the animals, right? The sister.
Take
What
out the
purpose
animals.
does the sister
Well,
serve?
I think you have your own take on what that serves. I don't know. It was touching, but well, let me say this. In terms of themes and stuff, right? It very clearly like inclusion, acceptance, these kind of things, bullying, say what you will. But there were two things that stood out to me that really came through when I listened to like the making of and was hearing kind of from the director and the costumer and all of this, but the hat was
Mhm,
really well done, right? Because like you said earlier, how do you take something so iconic
mhm,
and make it new or different, but still honoring, the original or whatever? And I thought they did a good job with the hat, with the
and
material that it was made of, like felt or something. And
yeah, and ironically, it was Glinda's hat.
right, and Glinda gives it to Alpha, but really as a goof
Yeah,
to kind of embarrass her.
to make her look silly.
But in that Ozdust sequence during that dance, she picks it up and puts it on and kind of imbues it and
Kind of
wills it to
owns it.
have this power.
Yeah.
It's a great moment.
And
And
then Glinda also puts the cape on her, which is
yes,
fantastic.
which is great the way she ties that's a
Yeah.
beautiful sequence. And, that sequence as you're talking about is when the Defying Gravity, uh, s music comes in. And I think that's what sums up a lot of at least this part 1 is she's literally defying gravity, but also, she's right, she's trying to be free and live an independent life and kind of own who she is and love who she is. And yeah, it gets a little corny, but I think it was a pretty powerful message done through the music, through the lyrics and the song, which are really, really good. The
Yeah.
soundtrack's great.
I think if they had tightened some of that, it would have been
Yeah.
better for the movie. It
Did
it
you
didn't
like
need
her
to be 2
choice
and a
to
half
what
hours.
did you think about Cynthia Erivo's choice to wanna be painted green every day as the character?
I don't know if you read the controversy about a fan poster.
No.
Somebody posted on YouTube
Mhm.
a a Wicked poster that
Yeah.
was modeled after the Wizard of Oz,
Okay.
and I think her face was kind of taken out of it by the hat,
Hmm.
and she posted something very negative about it.
Hmm.
But no, to go through that every
Yeah.
day is not
Yeah.
fun.
You know what I loved too was this see this image here if I can pull it up. I love the design of these glasses
Yeah.
that she's wearing. That I thought that was very cool. I didn't know if there's if there's some message in that or something. It's like the infinity symbol. It's very, very cool.
Well, it's like a different character when she puts them on.
Yeah.
It
That's true.
kinda changes the way
Yeah, that's true.
probably, like, it's a metaphor for the way she sees life.
Right. Something else you said. Okay, Michelle Yeoh. Yeah, I think that's probably a fair point. If she's not in it, I mean, I love Michelle Yeoh, so just seeing her in
Right.
anything is great. But I
But
think
I
you're right. It
think
was kind of a superfluous character.
it was, and it kinda stole a little Harry Potter stuff that didn't need to be there. I just think there's a really good 90-minute version of this.
Yeah, and look, okay, and that's probably again probably true. But um, listen, with everything that's going on in the world right now, we need a film with a message like this. So I'm on board. I bought into it. I thought it was very heartwarming. I was really, really blown away by Cynthia Erivo. I just had no idea what an incredible actress and singer
Mhm.
she is. The voice is just insane. And Ariana Grande is an unbelievable singer.
The 2 of
But
them,
whew, wow,
I mean, that's a pretty good tandem,
it's
and
a
when they're
great tandem.
singing together,
Yeah.
it just heightens it even more.
There's a song on the soundtrack, let me see, it's, "What Is This Feeling?" And it's
Mhm.
kind of this very sort of at first dramatic music and the lyrics, and it's the 2 of them in their bedroom at Shiz University because 'cause they're roommates, and it builds up to them basically talking about loathing each other, and it's just there was a lot of humor in it, they were very funny, but to your point, Michelle Yeoh's character, Bowen Yang, the animals, including Dinklage. Okay, maybe I'll concede the train, although I thought it was cool. You take a lot of that out, it probably brings it down to closer to 2 hours just with some of those elements, you
And
know?
I wonder, is part 2 part of the stage show? Like, is this the way the stage show concludes, and part 2 is an extension? And
That I don't
again,
know.
we're
That I
gonna
don't
have to
know.
hear from people to
That
know
I
that
don't know.
answer because
Yeah, but
we
listen, part 2 is due out November 21st of this year, 2025,
yeah,
so,
it's in post. Like I
yeah,
said, they filmed it, I think, as one film.
and as you said earlier, it's wicked for good.
Mhm.
Wicked is a term that you and I are quite familiar with growing up in the Northeast, in Boston. So,
Every other
um,
word.
well, listen, you were coming out swinging here. I mean, I had to really defend myself. I mean, I'm going to be all kinds of bruised up tomorrow. I mean, I'm feeling kind of sore already, to be honest with you. But I just want to go on record as saying I prejudged this, and I'm
Mhm.
glad that I watched it. I agree with a lot of your points. I don't love sitting down and watching a 2 hour, 40-minute movie no matter what it is,
Right.
but there was enough in it that it really resonated with me, and again, I was just blown away by Cynthia Erivo. I
And I will
she's great.
say that
Amazing.
although I was willing to concede all the strong points of the film, but I'm glad you forced me back in because I would have missed the good stuff. Like that first hour, I
Yeah.
don't miss anything from that first hour.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned the music, I think you said the dances or something. I'm not sure what you were talking about, but there was a few of those. I don't like you said every 2 minutes we don't have to break out in song just because it's a musical, but
Right,
so for every great dance performance or whatever we got, there was like one or two that's like, okay, maybe that can be gone.
right.
But there is one that Ariana Grande does that she literally learned. They made up, and she learned it like the day before. Was the one where she's outside her room, her dorm room, or whatever you want to call it,
Mhm,
and she's dancing and singing through the hallway, and she's got this big pink flowy dress on, and
mhm.
all the movements. She does this kick over her head that is just insane. By the way,
I just
um,
I always say this about her. How can something so small produce
have such a
something so
big
big?
She is tiny. She really is tiny, yeah, and they're both about the same height too. They're both
Yeah,
very, very diminutive, but
yeah.
the powerful performers. So and I'm rooting for you with Wicked for good. I think and I hope that you'll get a more of a payoff there, just because of the fact that we're probably gonna be dipping more into. I got a visitor here. Can you
Yeah,
see?
I see.
Yeah, there's my Ahsoka from Star Wars.
And she didn't when I was there, she never once came out to greet
Never
me.
once came out. No, she's
Stuck
she's
up little cat, and I've got my
she's a
Schrodinger's cat shirt on.
I love that, yeah. Well, all right, listen, we've probably said all there is to say
Yeah,
about it,
I
yeah.
really hope people comment,
Oh,
and
they
if you
will.
think
Oh,
I'm
they'll
way off
comment. Oh,
base
trust me. We're gonna get letters, we're gonna get comments.
yeah,
Please send them to attention Mike Smith
yeah,
at the
direct
Oh
your
Brother
hate towards me.
podcast. Yeah, send them to care of it. Look, she's all kinds of rambunctious tonight.
She's all happy,
Yeah.
grand.
Now, she liked it too, so we were talking about it earlier. She's a big fan. She loved the
Did
film.
they
She's
perk up?
looking.
Because your cats watch TV, like, obsessively. I
Do you
think you
want me to
need
be
to
honest?
take them to a cat vet.
Do you want me to be honest? They were kinda napping. She was on the back of the couch just kinda taking it
And
easy,
she's like,
so
"Yeah, this number's too long."
yeah. Well, there you go. There's the, Wicked Part 1 Oh Brother review. So, like Mike said, drop some comments in the video. Whether you've seen the musical or not, or, whatever the case, just let us know your thoughts if you've seen the film. Did you like it? Did you not? What points did you agree with Mike or disagree, and vice versa? We certainly laid it all out there. I don't think we left any stone unturned here with the conversation. So,
No, I got all my the money thing is the other a lot of people are saying, "Wow, it made 738,000,000."
yeah.
But you look at Sound of Music, 2.5 billion,
Well, speaking of billions, I mean, I think it was 2016 that the musical hit a billion, and Phantom of the Opera and Lion King are the only other 2 to have done that.
Yeah,
That's pretty impressive. So, but to your point, I do like that. I want to hear if you've seen the musical, the
yes.
Broadway music. It's funny too because there was a woman who um I was going to a nearby a place where they do facials and stuff, and she was like, uh, one of the people that I ended up having a couple of appointments with, and she had just moved here at the time from New York and was
Mhm.
doing makeup, and she was working on Wicked,
Oh, wow.
which was wild,
I think
and
it
then
just closed last month.
and that was during when they shut down. Remember when everything shut down on
Yeah,
Broadway and all of that? So with the
yeah.
strike and everything. So, well, there you go, Mike. Any final thoughts or comments on Wicked Part 1?
I think I got it out of my system.
Are we coming back for part 2? I think we
I
have
think
to.
we have to,
Yeah,
I mean, I
yeah.
don't even know, is there a trailer yet for part 2?
No, not that I've seen, no, no.
Okay.
But, it's what? We're as of this recording, we're almost into May, so, you'll start heating up,
Promotion
towards the
machine will start soon,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah. I'm not sure it's really died down ever completely, but
And I'm really curious, is this how the musical ended, or are you waiting for more of what you saw on stage in part 2?
yeah.
So
It
we'll see.
remains to be seen. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. Wicked Part One. That's going to do it for another episode of the Yo Brother Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith, and we will see you next time.
Bye, everyone.